and distribution in other member states will start immediately. Established in the different member states, while procedures will start immediately to return those after due process and in accordance with European and international institutions will decision of the capital against international rules and ignore directions being given by the Italian authorities, who were coordinating the person in need of urgent medical assistance has been evacuated by the Armed Forces of Malta, which also carried out 3 missions to convey supplies to the persons on board. I would like to thank the President of France and the Prime Ministers of Luxembourg and Portugal for taking this initiative and taking part in this initiative. I would also like to thank the President of the European Council and the President of the European Commission for their continuous support. Now we'll go to the questions. This was a very particular case where this is not a litigation or a disagreement between 2 member states, as happens at times, say Italy and Malta, on who has jurisdiction and who's the competent authority. So this is not an issue between 2 member states. This is clearly an issue where the captain of a vessel disobeyed international rules. So it's a very ad hoc situation. We have absolutely, or to date, we have absolutely no competence in the case. We are aware, and we were aware, that despite the fact that the vessel was loitering in international waters, it could have called Mayday at any time, and at that point in time it would have been too late to do anything, really and truly. So we advocated this solution. The idea started off last Sunday during the meeting that was convened by President Juncker. I do think that at the end of the day there will be other member states that will offer their assistance in doing this. And it's ad hoc because it's a very ad hoc case. So whilst to the general public it might seem as yet another vessel, it's a very, very unique case which we are addressing here. So I believe the vessel will reach our shores this evening. It has already been granted permission earlier on during the day, early this morning, to take shelter from inclement weather that was coming over. Actually, I can tell you that instead of 6, we're now 7 member states, because we were waiting for the confirmation of one other member state. The Netherlands have just confirmed that they are joining into this effort, so I thank them for I thank the Dutch Prime Minister for taking this step, and it is a very good signal, I do believe. So I think it's too early to say how many will go where. We have very clear indications and pledges, very concrete pledges from each member state. I think everyone will take according to, it's safe to say, everyone will take according to its capability, but I will refrain from giving numbers for the simple reason: first we have to ascertain the people who are on board, their profile. We have to differentiate as per law between asylum seekers and economic migrants. We have to give the opportunity to everyone to make his and her case. We have to see the number of people who claim to be unaccompanied minors. So there will be cases that are very clear of people who are unaccompanied minors, others who will claim to be unaccompanied minors. But what our experience in this case, in this area, shows that there is some degree of checks that need to be done. Were there member states that refused? Yes, there were member states that refused. He's the boss. Look, the Italian government has, since I do believe 14 months ago, put forward a code of conduct for NGOs. So the idea that this is the first time that the Italian government is seeking a regulation of NGOs is not on. Maybe the way the attitude has changed, but the idea of regulating NGOs and their behavior has been there for quite some time. Our approach, really and truly, it doesn't matter to us whether it's an NGO or not. For us, it is extremely worrying that we were facing with a situation where there was a vessel intercepting people, carrying people on board, claiming to have a particular registration, in this case the registration, the flag, the Dutch flag, and we had it black on white from the Dutch authorities saying, no, this is not the case. This is simply a certificate of ownership showing that the boat was purchased in the Netherlands. So for us, whether it was a company, whether it was a mercantile carrier, whether it was an NGO, having that sort of registration and operating in that manner is not on. And that is why we have ordered an investigation. I have ordered an investigation, and I do believe that we will see who is right, who is wrong in all this. The information we have so far, first and foremost from the Dutch authorities who refuted the point put forward by the NGO, is that this vessel was actually stateless. So, yeah, long answer short, no. This is an ad hoc agreement on this very particular case. I would want to emphasize the considerable difference between this case and the Aquarius case, where it was basically a dispute between two member states, and where we got the comfort of a number of international organizations, one of which is the European Commission, which went public saying that they agreed with our assessment of the situation, and I'm quoting here President Juncker saying that Malta behaved in the correct manner in this case. So coming back to your original question, no, this is not a pattern, this is not a blueprint. What I think it is surely a situation where there were member states who showed that for them the values of European solidarity are not something to be found just in the treaties, but that we act together. And this, we're not saying this because in this case we might have been on the receiving end. By the way, if we acted solely within the legal parameters, we could have said, you know, we have absolutely no jurisdiction, it's none of our business. We did something else. We tried to initiate a European approach. And in this case, I do believe that we stood up to be counted. But once again, I must remind, and maybe some members of the international press are not aware, first of all, Malta has the second highest number of asylum-seeking applications per capita in the European Union. And that is because mostly of secondary movements, which are very topical these days. Secondly, we were just one of two member states, and actually the first member state, to implement the distribution of migrants from Greece and Italy as per the pilot program put forward by the European Commission a couple of years ago. That we implemented. We implemented in an expedient manner, and we have satisfied all the criteria. No, look, what I said last Sunday and what I will say tomorrow at Council, at the European Council, is that I don't think it's all about grandstanding and high-flying political declarations. It's about how we act operationally and how we manage the situation. So if you look at what happened when we had pressures from the East, at the end of the day there was the Turkish agreement, which has been criticized, but that has essentially worked. It has worked to manage the flows in the East. It hasn't worked to stop the flows, because once those flows stopped at the East, we saw a surge in the central Mediterranean. Once Italy, and I must single out the Italian government at the time, took very proactive initiatives, mostly bilaterally with Libya, we have seen a decrease of 78% in flows in the central Mediterranean. What we're seeing now from the data we have is a significant increase on the west, so towards Spain. And that shows that things can be done at an operational level. It's not the idea of stopping, it's the idea, I think, of managing and making sure that people are encouraged to apply in the right manner, that we need to differentiate between economic migrants and genuine asylum seekers, and also introduce humanitarian corridors when it comes to genuine asylum seekers. And then, to be very honest, we need to expedite systems where economic migrants are sent back ASAP. Well, I have been making trips to Libya for the past 5 years. I think I've been so far the only European Prime Minister to visit Libya more than once since the fall of the regime. So I don't think it's about how much you go there. It's about the type of contact you have. I know as much as you do, I have seen the statements that have been made by the minister. I'm not surprised by the stand of the Libyan government when it comes to their skepticism on hosting any sort of platform within Libya. I'm a bit surprised at treating the idea of having platforms outside at the south of the Libyan borders as some sort of innovation. That is something that, as European Union, we have been working on in Niger, in Chad, and elsewhere for quite some time. What's good, and we had our fair deal of controversies with Minister Salvini, and I think we will have many more in the future. But what's good is that people who say things now have to see how to implement those things. From our side, we come from a political situation where we haven't changed our policy a bit in the past 5 years. We have been consistent, saying there needs to be a humanitarian approach, but saying also that there needs to be a security approach, and saying that one excludes the other is not on. Yes, as I said in Parliament a couple of days ago, we are never prepared enough, but we are prepared enough, in the sense that it really depends on the type of influx, the profile of people coming over. Obviously, we have to differentiate. We have our reception policy, which is in line with EU rules. We have to differentiate between adults and minors. It's very obvious to us. So I think that the big deal, the greatest deal of work that we will have in the next couple of days will be to carry out the interviews. We have our own local experts. There are other experts from other countries. I know for sure that there is an envoy of the French government coming over in the next few hours. So, and we are open to the other 6 member states. Whoever wants to send their experts, they're welcome to come here. No, we haven't had any contact, but for us it's obvious that since we're in a situation where the flag state or the alleged flag state has told us black on white, confirmed officially, that they don't have the said ship on their register, and given the fact that the ship is registered as a pleasure craft, a pleasure boat, and a pleasure boat in itself cannot conduct interceptions, cannot conduct such missions. We are duty-bound, I would say, not only by local but also international rules to look into the case, to investigate, and we will leave it up to our courts to decide. Until that investigation is over, it's obvious that the vessel needs to be detained. We can take another 2, no problem. We take another 2. Yes. See. So it's for the simple reason we were not aware of this point where we always thought that the vessel, and we relied on the fact that they were registered in another member state, and we would never have any problem with that. Now we have confirmation that this is not the fact. So we need to review all our policies with regard to such vessels. In the meantime, it's not 7, it's 8, because our Belgian friends have also confirmed they will participate in the process. I'm sorry for these changes, but it's good news, you know, at the end of the day, and I'm pretty sure there will be other people who will make up their mind in the next few hours. So it's now 8 member states, so it's us, France, Ireland, Italy, Luxembourg, Portugal, the Netherlands, and Belgium. Thank you very much.